all the pretty slides I put together for you. We're going to start right where we left off last time in terms of the that everything radiates out from you. It starts with you and kind of it concentrically moves out from there. And I feel like there's so many ways to present marketing, but I really want to focus on this, the fact that it radiates out from you, and that's what's important about marketing. If you're going to be effective, it should be fun. And if you're 75 or 72 or whatever it is, it should be fun, right? It's like, we've been here long enough. It should all be fun. We shouldn't have to set alarm clocks, and marketing should be fun. So we're starting with the why, and Amy's talked to you a lot about the why. We're going to move to the scope of your marketing. I'm going to talk about your audience, their needs and wants, just a marketing 101, and ways to build relationships. So your values are really important, and we don't necessarily think about that. We kind of take them for granted, but if you think about walking into any kind of a business, you can perceive, even though you may not be thinking about it, you can perceive the values of that business and that business owner just from walking in. Does somebody greet you? What are the colors? How does it feel in there? Is it everything stark white? Is it, just all the different experiences that you might have? You're forming opinions about that. And a lot of those are based on the values that are set. It's like, okay, we're going to be businesslike and everything's going to be white. Or is it going to be warm and friendly? I just recently went to a networking event at a bookstore here in Arkansas, and the woman had painted the walls a dark green, and she said she had to fight her the guys that were working on her building to get it all ready, because they were like, no, it should be white. And she said, I don't like white. I don't want white. I want it to feel warm. And I tell you, that is probably the coziest, most welcoming bookstore I've ever been in. It's beautiful what she's done. So it really makes a difference, and her values were first and foremost in her mind when she put that place together. Your life experiences, everything you say and do basically reflects your life experiences. And like we talked about last time, your unique essence informs all of that. And all of that is going to come through in your marketing. So it's a really good idea to just go ahead and have it in your mind. So you know how to direct it. Who does your message serve? And I think there's only one of you that, Catherine, who said that they actually have products, and I think it kind of works. There's a lot of carryover. So thinking about who does your message or your product serve is really important in terms of, does it solve a problem for them? And if so, that is going to be also foremost in your marketing. You need to find ways to share with them that you can solve that problem. Does it save time, collate ideas? Does it connect them with other people? Does it give them information? You're starting with what's important to you. Why is this message important? Moving out to how it benefits others, and then moving out to a larger scale. How is it important on a larger scale? They do that with I was taught to do that with symbols, that you first look at a symbol in terms of, what does it mean to me? And then what does it mean locally? What does it mean to the people that I know? And then ultimately, what does it mean universally? And that can give you a really good sense and alternative viewpoints. Clarifying your message. So there's a lot of ways to interpret your message. You have some particular way in mind, but there's a lot of people that are going to see your message completely differently. So you want to be prepared for that, and you want to think about how else could it be interpreted. It's theme or concept driven, and your call to action is besides wanting to sell books, you also are probably wanting to get people to think, act, or feel differently. You want them to have some kind of an experience as a result of your message. And so we're pulling all of that together. And I know right now it feels a lot like that big picture there. But ultimately, you can pull it all together. If you've got a product or service, it's more focused because it's a thing and it's definite, and here's what it does, or here's who's going to want to buy it. So it's a little more outcome driven as opposed to a theme. And your call to action in that case really is a purchase. They're not necessarily going to think, what else can I do with this thing? So researching your message, again, we're moving out in these concentric circles. So researching your message. I know you've done that, but there's so much more you can do. It kind of can go on forever. So you want to look at if you want to call them competitors, really it's just other books that have similar topics or ideas, and just see how are they marketing and what are they talking about and what kind of reviews did they get and what do people say. Check Google for words or phrases about your message. You can ask questions on Quora or Reddit or one of those online places where people will answer your questions. And you can get a lot of information if you just ask questions or make a statement about your message and see what happens there. That can be really interesting. The other thing is you want to really keep track of the kinds of questions that people ask you about your message. What do people want to know? Because that's going to be super important if you're going to give talks, or if you're going to have an event, or if you're going to go on a podcast. Conferences, magazines, publications, groups, and communities. You want to get involved in all of these things and look at all of these places to find out ways that your message might wedge into the crack of all these diverse kinds of ideas. Librarians are a wealth of information. You want to take flowers and candy and go to your library and meet your librarian. So if you have paper and a pen, we're going to do a little exercise. If not, you can do it later. Essentially, we're going to create a spider web, and I'm continuing with this theme. You're at the center. Your energy is at the center of this marketing campaign. And I want you to think locally and then branch out from there in terms of ideas. So your genre, brainstorming, connections, questions. Like I said before, talk to librarians. You're going to forge new relationships and connect your topic in different ways. Who else does your message serve besides the people that you've already thought of? So we're going to create something, and in the next slide, I'm going to give you an example. So if you write the name of your message or your book at the center of the page, and then out from that, you're going to kind of extrapolate into a lot of different areas and see how your message might also connect in those different ways. So for the sake of this example, the book is about self-care. And so self-care can mean a lot of different things. And there are a lot of places that would be really interested in self-care that might not have occurred to you initially. Like hobbies is an odd one, right? It's like a hobby is a form of self-care. So I love to kayak. Kayaking is really a way that I do self-care. So going to a sporting goods store, a small one, right? We're thinking locally first, and talking to them about how the different types of things that they offer are also included in self-care. Finding a podcast or doing a little event at a very unusual place like that and talking about how those sports or activities could be considered self-care and the benefits of doing that. Gardening is kind of a crossover. It's also up here under community. And community Could be a community center, doing an event, doing a talk, and speaking about how being in community, connecting with community is a form of self-care. So you're basically interpreting your message and fitting it into the crack of all these different ways that people are going to actually give themselves self-care. Fitness. You might go to a person that you know, maybe you do private Pilates with somebody and they'd be willing to put your book up, or maybe they'd be willing to host a little talk that you could give there. Chiropractors, small women's clinics, doctors' offices, making an appearance, having your book, having a flyer, something that is promoting your concept in a lot of different areas. Yoga and meditation kind of fall into that same category. Magazines or publications, offering to write an article, offering to write posts for other people's newsletters about so maybe your Pilates teacher has a newsletter and you could write an article about self-care in that for her or him. Education, obviously YouTube. Something that I've seen that's been very effective is when you do a video that corresponds with a chapter of your book, put it on YouTube privately, and then you put that link into the chapter in the book. And then at the end of every chapter, they can go and watch a video about the chapter that they've just read. Did I miss any spas? Obviously, spas are like, that would be so fun, right? To go to get to go do a little event at a spa or write a post for their newsletter. So you get the idea. Basically, you're thinking of a lot of different places, start locally and then move out from there, areas that you maybe hadn't thought about that would be very relevant to your message. So now kind of pulling that together, marketing is a means to expansion, not to an end. So identifying your area of expertise, which you've done, and then spreading the word. And then there are just a gazillion places and ways to do that. And I'm going to talk shortly about goals, because it's really a good idea. You might write a book and have a powerful message that you're very passionate about, but where else do you want to go with that? So it's kind of like riding a bike. If you're looking at the handlebars, it's going to be a very wobbly experience. But if you're looking a little ways ahead, you can keep that bike upright in a much smoother manner. So the same thing with your marketing. You want to kind of look ahead and see, where are you going with this? What else would you like to do? How else would you like to reach people? Do you want to do talks? Do you want to do podcasts? Do you want to do home parties? You could have small groups of people meeting and talking about things in your book. You could do your own book clubs. Start with your book. Bundles. So if you have built up some content in addition to your book, maybe it's a workbook or a checklist or some sort of a template, offering that together with the book on your website. So you're selling your book on your website along with content that can offset, sort of an upsell that can offset the price of buying those books, or you know what I'm talking about, the price that it costs you to have those books created. So your audience, your message is at the forefront of everything, including your audience, but your audience has needs. And I wanted to differentiate that your audience may not know what those needs are. They can't necessarily differentiate between needs and wants. So if your book or your message is really solving a problem or educating someone around a certain kind of pain, for example, or discomfort, that person may not know what it is that they need. They just know they want it to go away. They don't want to be uncomfortable. They want to move away from the thing that is uncomfortable. So coming at it straight on might not be as effective as kind of coming around from the side. So the example that was given to me by a mentor once, she said, you know, if women are your audience, relationship might be foremost on their mind. This was a long time ago. Relationship might be foremost on their mind. They think that that's what they want. And yet they may be recently divorced and they're still angry about the last person. And so even though they want to be in relationship, what they need is to process the anger that they feel or the upset or whatever it is. So it's like your book may be solving a problem, but you can't necessarily come right out and say, yeah, you know, you really need therapy. You're going to have to be a little more careful than that. So they want solutions, but they don't want to be uncomfortable. So your solution cannot be a source of discomfort for them. They're busy, and yet they want consistency. So even though they're too busy to think about you, they still need you to be there at the moment that they want you to be there. And so your job is to be consistent and to stay top of mind. So when they do have a gap in that busyness, you're the first thing they think about, or the solution that you've offered. They need help, but they won't ask. So you're anticipating their needs and providing that solution in all sorts of clever ways, in small little chunks, in tips, in social media, in empathy, in all sorts of ways. They will buy when the time is right. So if your solution matches up to their pain or problem, in the moment that they've connected the dots and put those three things together, then they're going to buy whatever it is that you've got, because those things are all lining up in their mind. And again, the way to do that is to be top of mind and to be consistent and to be really clear. Where do you find your audience? So they have particular interests, lifestyle, demographics, all those sorts of things. And one way is to ask your fans, ask people that you know that are already part of your audience about their interests, about their lifestyle. Where do they go? Do they prefer Facebook? Do they prefer LinkedIn? What do they do when they're on those? What kinds of things do they read about? What sort of magazines do they read? Where do they hang out? So you can, another good way to find that information if you have a Facebook group is to do a live chat and ask people live. Again, creating that inventory of questions. As you find out the answers, you're going to write those down, as well as questions that they're asking you about your message. There's a lot of online tools that can help you as well. Some of them are quite expensive, but you can use them often like once a month without a charge. I've created a little funnel for you. This might be right in the writing. So at the top of this funnel are kind of connection and know, like, and trust activities. And you'll notice that down the entire side here, it says build trust, because ultimately that's the big thing that we're doing with our marketing. And these are kind of core ideas or core marketing tools. Having a website to introduce yourself and what it is you do, to make an impression, to identify the problems your client may have, and that you have a solution to provide. A press or media kit. So if you're those of you that are already speakers, you already know all about that. But basically, you need a bio and a photo and all those kinds of things all together in a little package that you can give to people. And that's something that if you're new to book writing, I don't think anybody here is, but You want to have all of those things already together. Business cards, because you're going to run into people. You're going to go to a restaurant and have a meal and want to leave that business card about your book with your tip. You're going to want to leave it everywhere. Flyers. Develop a template for pitches that you might send out to different people. Pitches and letters of introduction. Those always need to be very brief. You don't want to write them an entire page because they're not going to read that. So you want to give them a couple of ideas, say who you are and what you've done that's going to interest them. Blog posts. Blog posts are, they can be super helpful for SEO. They can be really helpful to demonstrate your expertise and to educate people, but they're a lot of trouble. They're not that easy to write. You can certainly get the hang of it. If you enjoy doing that, then you should do that. Paying somebody to do that can be expensive. So, you've just got to decide what things are going to suit you best. If you have a book, I believe personally you should have a website. And I'm not just saying that because I build websites, but also I think it's like having a storefront. It's having a solid place that exists in time and space for someone to visit, to feel like they can see who you are and what you do. So again, all of these things at the top are around increasing subscribership, getting to know people, building your brand. And then down here, we're going to move into talks, tours, and interviews, where you're sharing your journey, your story, your message, and demonstrating your expertise. You're also providing social proof. And this kind of falls more into I've adapted this for books, but this marketing funnel initially was for other kinds of marketing. So offers might be tips or educational bits and pieces, bundles. There's all kinds of things that you can sell on your website pertaining to your message, things that aren't kind of like what I was saying before about fitness or about hobbies or that kind of thing. There's a lot of ways you can sort of extrapolate your message into bits and pieces that are going to help people to solve the problems that they have that your message talks about in smaller ways, kind of bite-sized pieces. So the offers are all those kinds of things: bundles, courses, workbooks, presentations, and events. Podcasts is a really good way to show your value over competitors in a non-competitive kind of a way. Promoting specific services, and reviews. Obviously, reviews are good. Even if the review is not so great, it's still helping to draw attention to you and what it is that you're doing. Your call to action is going to be kind of predicated on what goals you have, if you want to write more books or that sort of thing. Social media is supporting all these primary ways of marketing. So while it can be very important in terms of establishing trust, I've got it kind of over here on the side as a support to those primary methods. So obviously empathizing, supporting, talking about pain points, hanging out, offering value, getting to know people, building relationships. And then calls to action, because we're really low on time, I'm just going to say, I'm going to talk about the first one because Rick had mentioned giving people, what did he say, a positive sampling. And I like the words provide an epiphany. So to give somebody an aha experience early on is, I feel like, it's a very powerful way to establish your credibility. Oops. Building relationships. So in keeping with our theme of trying to make this fun, think about not only how your message helps and who it helps, but also what do you know about your audience? What do you like about them? And why should they trust you? So it's just kind of another way of thinking of that, because so it's just kind of another way of thinking of that, because how you know them is probably the way they want to know you. And what you like about them is probably the same, what they like about you. So it's like using those kinds of things. You just turn it a little bit and it gives you some information. Who do you know that knows somebody else? 6 degrees of separation. Sharing your message is part of who you are. It's kind of like your birthright. It's not selfish. I'm just reminding you. Following your interests. So keeping in mind, what is your goal? Do you want to sell more books? Do you want to write a follow-on book? Do you want to do other types of writing? Do you have a mission or purpose that is evolving out of the first book? Do you want some sort of social change? It's really important to kind of think about that long term, so that you can, like I was giving the analogy of the bicycle, it's like you want to have a sort of a smooth forward experience. So you're transitioning from one thing into the next with your marketing. You're expanding your offerings. You're doing email campaigns. Maybe you develop a newsletter for a small group or a large group, either way. Doing more live events, tours and talks, having affiliates, people that are going to help market what you do because they believe in what you do, and giving them a little piece of that. Another thing that just popped into my head was, if you've got some arrangement with a sporting goods store for your self-help or your self-care book, having some of their articles on your website could be an interesting idea. And you could get an affiliate fee for kayaks and paddles, helping people to recognize that, that's a really wonderful thing to do for self-care. In conclusion, I said this before, and I think it merits saying it again, that you're using your marketing to share who you are. This isn't just, your idea, your topic, your message, your mission. It's more than just getting people to change their mind. It's a connection, and we came here to make connections. We came here to go as deeply as we could into those kinds of connections. And so marketing is a way for you to share that. Hence my saying that, it was your birthright. It's like you're doing a disservice by not sharing who you are. And then using your gift, the quality, that value, that whatever je ne sais quoi that you have, using that to animate your marketing. So the bottom line is to be yourself. So Amy's going to put a link in the chat for an hour of time. I would love to spend an hour with you and talk about your marketing if you would like to do that. Or I can talk about any other forms of marketing. Yeah, so if you're interested in doing that, there's going to be a link in the chat to sign up for an hour with me. And I just want to thank you for coming, for your attention and engagement. And sorry, I kind of rushed through that a little bit, but I really wanted to stay on time to honor your time. And thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That was awesome. We've got a couple of minutes for questions. If anybody's got a burning question that came up that they need clarified, jump in.
That was like, it was a mind dump. Sarah.
Thank you, Laura. That was really good. I have 2 questions, but I'll just ask you one of them. What if the message that you have makes the person uncomfortable? What I have found is that when I talk about getting older women, what your life is like, what it can be like, Many women get angry, get upset, get all flustered, and I don't want to think about getting older. Don't talk to me about getting older. And so I don't want to talk about getting older. I want to talk about getting better and and so forth. But they get their knickers in a twist about, getting older and being an old woman. And I don't want to be an old woman. And so what about a message that makes people uncomfortable? I know they don't want to be uncomfortable.
So I have an answer for that.
Oh, good.
And it is that, people live in their reality. And so sharing your reality has to be a personal thing. So they're going to be in that, like, what old means to them and how that looks, and who knows what their life experience is and how it's come to that. So your job is to be compassionate about the fact that clearly it's painful for them because they're visualizing some person in their life that they saw deteriorate before their eyes. And so they're in that painful place. And so for you, it's talking about yourself, not talking about them, and sharing something from that compassionate place in you around how you are making yourself better, how you are dealing with aging, things that you do in the course of a day that make you feel good. So it's really sharing your personal experience from that place of not saying, yeah, we're all getting old and, you're going to have to deal with it, but saying, like, I had a hard time with aging, 10 years ago, and here's what I started doing. Or, it's not like they don't know that you're doing something, but they've got some idea about you that's different than their idea that they've got, because they look at you and go, wow, well, maybe Sarah can do that, but I don't know how the hell she does that. So tell them how you do that. Tell them that some days you feel like, yeah, I'm a little tired, or I feel a little like this or a little like that. So you're empathizing with them, but then share what you do that makes it better.
Okay. Thank you.
Great advice, Laura. Thank you. All right, it's right at the top of the hour, so I want to sign off just to respect your time. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and please connect with Laura. I'm going to put the link again to connect with her. If you've got questions, she's obviously got a depth of experience to help you and talk it out and come up with a solution that works for you. So, full of gratitude for all of you, and I hope to see you at the next workshop. I'll let you know when that is.
Thank you.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Great job, guys.
Yes.
Thanks, John.
Excellent.
Thanks for being here, everyone.
Thanks, James.
All right. Thanks, Kath. Talk to you soon.
All right.